Hello, this is part 2 of our treasure chest modeling video. This is going to be our last video for modeling, and then we're going to move on to UV unwrapping. So let's go ahead and get started. And last time we left off, we were using the merge vertex tool to merge some of the vertices so that we can have a lower poly model. Let me select the bottom part. I'm going to select one edge and this other edge, and I'm going to use edit mesh, and I'm going to use collapse, and I'm going to do the same with this side. And I'm going to use the merge vertex tool one more time, just so I can merge this vertex to that vertex. The only reason I'm doing this is just so I can reduce the poly count for this particular object. You don't have to do that if this is not a low polygon object. So this would be something more in the realm of the video game where you want it to be low polygon. So in this case, using triangles is fine for a hard surface object. Let's go to edit mesh. I'm going to use the append to polygon tool. I'm going to click this side and this other edge. If something like this happens, just press enter and undo and try it one more time. Make sure you click on the center of the edge like this. I'm going to press Y just so that I can continue to use the same tool. And there we have it. We close that hole. And we're going to do the same thing with the bottom. Using the append to polygon tool. I'm going to press enter once I'm done. I'm just trying to look if there's other ways where I can reduce the edge count, so I can reduce the poly count. I'm going to edit mesh, merge vertex tool, and I'm going to, sometimes it gets a little difficult to select the vertices, so you got to get closer to them. And I'm going to use the merge vertex tool. I'm going to connect that edge to the corner. I'm going to do the same thing with this other one. And in this case, having those triangles there is not a problem because this is a non-deforming object. And I have a few edges here that I don't really need, so I'm going to get rid of them. So I'm going to edit mesh, delete edge vertex. Let me get the other part back so that we can see that we are technically almost done with the first part. I'll just type 0 in the rotations just so that I can get this back into place. And I can see that this one has more geometry than really needs to. I can absolutely reduce the number of the poly count number on this object by deleting a few edges and making a few other connections. So I'm going to edit mesh, delete edge vertex. I'm going to delete this one as well, and this one. Now we have a huge end gun that we're going to fix in a few seconds by going into vertex mode, and I'm going to connect some of the some of the vertices, and I'm having problems here selecting the other vertex, which can sometimes be a problem, but just try to zoom in. So go to connect components, I'm going to connect the components, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other remaining vertices. I'm just pressing G. Sometimes it can be really difficult to select one of the vertex. There we have it. I actually reduced the poly count on this side, and I'm going to do the same with the other one. Again, the only reason I'm going through this is because I want this to be a low polygon model. If this would be a film model, of course you would probably bevel the edges and make sure that it looks nicer than this. But we're going for a more low, maybe a video game model here. And this might even be too high for a game. It depends on what kind of game you're making. So there we have it. And I have an extra edge here that I'm going to delete. I'm going to edit mesh and delete edge vertex. So I have reduced the number of poly count, my poly count for the top part. And I think I'm going to do the same thing for the inner part of the same model. So I'm going to select these edges. I'm going to select all these edges from the inner part. And I'll go to edit mesh, delete edge vertex. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. We don't need all these edges, especially for the inner part, which is not going to be too visible. So we don't need it to be too complex in terms of the edge loops that we have in the inner part. And more importantly, because this is going to be more of a video game model, so we want it to be low polygon, especially in the areas that we're not really going to see too much. So we're going to select a few more edges that I want to get rid of. I'm going to get rid of those edges, just so that it's less complex. I'm probably going to get rid of this edge, but I think I'm going to connect going to fill the hole for the bottom part first. Let's go ahead and connect these vertices. Connect components for those two. What I did there, I was isolated the faces of the bottom part, of the inner part, just so that it could be easier for me to see to select those vertices. So now that we have I think I'm happy with what I have here. So I'm going to edit mesh, and I'm going to use that append to polygon tool just so that I can fill the whole of the bottom part. And again, if you get something like this, which is not really what I wanted in this case, I'm just going to undo. It looks that I have an extra vertex there, so I deleted it. So now I'm going to edit mesh, append to polygon tool, and this time it should work fine. And I'm just pressing Y just so I can continue to use the tool. So we are almost done with the modeling process, and then later we're going to check if we have maybe n-gons that we might need to fix. And so now I want to get rid of the middle edge that's in the inner part. So I'm going to select the edges in the middle. And I'll go to edit mesh, collapse. It looks like I forgot one of the edges. Let me undo and select it again. And go to collapse. And there we have it. And I think I may delete this edge. Might do the same with the other one. I'm going to deselect the ones in the top. And I'm going to delete them. So I'm going to edit mesh, delete edge vertex. And now I'm just going to connect those two by using the merge vertex tool. And everything looks fine for our top part. And I might leave it this way, or you can certainly keep that edge that was there in the middle. I just noticed that this part should have been higher than what I have it here, so I'm just going to connect those two. So there we have it. And one thing I'm going to do is going to go to the edit and delete history, delete by type history. I'm going to select this face and I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I noticed that we have an n-gon here, so I'm going to connect these two using the connect components. So I'm going to connect these two vertices. I'll scale that down. And I'll reduce the poly count for this thing, for this object. That is something that's really low. Might even want it to be lower than that. I'm using the middle mouse button here when I clicked on the word that says radius. I'm just going to get that closer to my treasure chest here. These are going to be our handles. Let me go back here and use the middle mouse button. So I'm going to rotate it maybe 90 degrees on the Z-axis. And I'm just going to move the handles closer to the treasure chest. We rotate it a bit. And I'll select the faces for this side. I'm going to scale that just to give it more of the shape of a handle. I'm just going to extrude that using Edit Mesh Extrude, and I'll use the blue handle for that. And finally, I think I'm going to reduce the poly count for this one so that it's less dense. So I'm going to select some of the edge loops and I'm going to delete them. For a small object like this, since it's not going to be too visible, it's better to have it for it to be less dense. I'm going to delete my history by going to edit, delete by type history. I'm just going to selecting all the objects so that I can see what's going on here. And I forgot to delete one of the edge loops here. And so I'm going to delete that. And to get this handle to the other side, we're just going to duplicate that. So I just want to check I still have my rotations for the top part. And as I said, to get this handle to the other side, I'm going to press Ctrl D, and I'm just going to duplicate it and place it on the other side as well. And there we have it. I think we are probably done with the modeling for now. Although we might want to check in a few seconds how to make sure that we don't have any end guns left. And to do that, we go to Mesh, Clean Up, and make sure that you set it to select matching polygons and faces with more than 4. And we apply that to our object, and as we can see, we do have some end guns that we need to fix. So I'm going to connect those two. We connect components, same with this one, and the same with the other side. So now we're pretty much done, and in the next video I'm going to show you how to UV unwrap the model.